We invite the experience, right? We invite the experience. We invite doctors and healthcare professionals to be curious. And we normalize how they're feeling. So it doesn't mean it's okay. It just means that they're not alone. And the good news is they can feel better, right? They can feel better. They just need to learn how. And there's this big, huge gaping hole in our education, right? With this big, huge piece that's missing. And so we as a collective are here to help fill that hole.
Paging Dr. Cook. Paging Dr. Cook. Dr. Cook, you're wanted in the OR. Dr. Cook, you're wanted in the OR.
Welcome to the Prescription for Success podcast with your host, Dr. Randy Cook.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Prescription for Success. I'm Dr. Randy Cook, your host for the podcast, which is a production of MD Coaches, providing leadership and executive coaching for physicians by physicians to overcome burnout, transition your career, develop as a leader, or whatever your goal might be. Visit MD Coaches on the web at mymdcoaches.com, because you're not in this alone. Well, today's episode is set for release on Valentine's Day. That's a day when we typically take the time to tell the special people in our lives just how much we care about them. So with that in mind, instead of our usual interview format, we're offering a conversation featuring the entire MD Coaches team, discussing the very important subject of caring for ourselves. So let's join the team and see what we can learn.
Hi, I'm Dael Waxman. I'm a family physician and executive coach. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. And one of the areas that I most like working with in coaching are physicians and other healthcare professionals who are disillusioned or feeling like they want something else in their life professionally.
Hi, and I'm Deb Roman. I'm a family physician, integrative family physician in Boise, Idaho. And I'm also an executive physician coach with MD Coaches. And I too really feel like a focus for me is to work with physicians and medical school students who are looking for more fulfillment in their lives.
I am Robyn Tiger. I'm a radiologist and an executive coach with MD Coaches. And I'm here in Asheville, North Carolina. And my passion and specialty is stress management. And I do that through education regarding managing one's body through their physiology, as well as mind management through life coaching.
So I think the question is for this Valentine's Day episode has to do with self-love before we're caring for others. As I was thinking about this question, I'll be interested to hear what the two of you are also thinking. But the first thing that came up in my mind is the difference between self-care and self-love. And for self-care, I'm thinking of the things that I do to nourish my body and my mind. And self-love, what came up for me is self-compassion. And I've sort of just recently been studying that for myself through some mindfulness self-compassion, mostly guided meditations. But it's really about acceptance, self-acceptance. I don't know that I would go so far as to say self-love as much as self-acceptance. And when I'm starting to do a number on myself, really kind of realizing that I'm part of the human race and somebody else has felt this way before as well. So that's the first thing that comes up for me is this difference between self-care and self-compassion. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's a really important piece, something that came up for me. So again, we're kind of looking at this question of Valentine's Day and what does all this mean? Was something very similar, this idea of this new neuroscience behind the ways that we respond to ourselves can affect our well-being. And one of the key ways that can happen is with compassion. And so I too was thinking in that way, like, what are the things that I do that can really help to alleviate my own suffering in addition to the suffering of others? And this piece of self-compassion is so interesting to me because the science behind it now is really reflecting that when we practice compassion, we actually enhance our well-being, by strengthening neural circuits. And so that's so interesting to me. And it's really given me a different framework of how do I look at what I'm doing to care for myself, because I look at that and think, oh, and then I'm also helping my body, my physiology, my perspective. It's all kind of related to each other. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And, thinking about that, though, I have to say that I know there's this two-way street, right? So we can be compassionate, which can help our bodies, and then we can do things in our bodies to help us be more compassionate. So for me, right, like first thing in the morning, I can wake up feeling anxious and stressed, and even though I do this work, it's not uncommon for me or for many other people to wake up feeling that way. And it could be really hard to bring in that self-compassion when you're really disembodied. So one of the things I like to do first thing in the morning is actually to calm myself down. Dael mentioned some meditation, doing some type of meditation, giving myself time, which is a form of self-love, right? Giving yourself that space, moving my body, even if it's working out or doing yoga or whatever, really coming back into my body and then being able to work with that compassion, I have found to be really helpful, because sometimes we've got too much going on in our brain to draw into that. And we can be compassionate with ourselves, first with our bodies, for me, first thing in the morning. And then I can feel really spacious and open and okay, I can be really kind to myself. Be really, really kind to myself when I'm feeling like I'm out of my crazy busy mind and back into my body. So I like to think of that two-way street as happening at all times, because some people might be listening saying, oh, I don't know how to be compassionate to myself. Sometimes we need to calm ourselves down first to create that space for that compassion.
Yeah, at least for me, there's also just some self-talk about in creating that space. Because when I wake up, I also, it's not so much anxious. It's mostly, okay, what do I have to do today? And it's sort of, that's what's on my mind rather than, and then that can create anxiety depending on what it is that I have to do that day. But I think for me, the key piece of this self-compassion is this self-talk that, for lack of better language, it's, I'm okay the way that I am, and the way it is the way that it is. This is the mind doing what the mind does. And I'm okay the way that I am. And once I can sort of watch that those are my thoughts that I wake up with every day, and then have some awareness that that's just the way my mind works, that doesn't say something about me as a person or me as a professional. It's just the way that it is. That's the entry to that self-compassion. So Robyn, great point. People who are listening to this are going to be saying, so how do you do that? How do you do the self-compassion piece? I think at least the beginning of it is awareness that this is what's going on, just like you beautifully described. I wake up anxious. You're aware of that anxiety rather than just acting on it.
One of the practices that has really helped me, that really speaks to what you're both saying, is it's a model that was developed by a medical anthropologist, Joan Halifax. And she actually developed this model to help people develop compassion. So cultivate the capacity for compassion. But what she recognized, as you were saying, Robyn, is that, and also you, Dael, that there were components of that we had to kind of walk through in order to get there. So it's a mnemonic, GRACE. And so she starts with the idea that we need to gather our attention. So kind of like, what you both are saying in the morning, gather our attention into the moment and ground ourselves. So two things for the G. R is recall our intention. And there's such beautiful work around that. But this idea of why are we doing what we're doing, even just today? What do we want to do right now? And the idea that kind of keeps us in line with our values and gives us some energy to move forward. A is attune to yourself. So as you were saying, Robyn, how am I doing physically? What are my emotions right now? And, what are my thoughts? Kind of taking a look at all that and then attune to others. So I always think of it as when I can be aware of myself, then I can lift my head to see what others are doing and be more aware that I'm not projecting or that my biases are not coming into play as much. And then C is consider what will serve. What will serve in that moment that feels like it's in alignment with being present right then and the values that I might have. And then E is one of my favorite parts. There's 4 E's. You engage, so you decide to do something. You enact what you did, but then you end. So you say to yourself, maybe even with an out breath, you acknowledge the end of that particular moment and that particular experience. And then the last E is see what emerges. And it sounds like a lot of words and a lot of things, but I use it all the time. If I'm called into a patient's room and they're very ill, if I had to rush in from somewhere else and, I gather my attention and I ground myself and I remember why I'm doing it. And I attune to myself and others, consider what will serve, and then engage and end. That for me, the fact that she gave us a model helped me. Like, this is something to think about. But the reason I brought it up too is that it incorporates the things you're saying, like, being aware that way, Robyn, in the morning, like what my body is doing and what my mind is doing. And Dael, that kind of awareness and attention to, can I accept myself? Am I willing to do that? It incorporates those different kinds of skills.
Love that, Deb. And, as doctors, we're really methodical and we like to check boxes. So, having that acronym or that mnemonic or whatever is very, resonates really, really highly with me. And I know a lot of people listening are probably going to feel the same way. I love that piece about, really what is your why? Mm-hmm. And really combining what you and Dael both said. One of the things I do in the morning is I use words, like Dael was talking about, words or affirmations, something that I read this amazing book and saw a TED Talk. And one of the things you can say to yourself in the morning, and you might think this is kind of corny, but this is it. Good morning, I love you. And it's so beautiful and it's so simple, but it's so powerful. And it actually, you can even try it with me. You can put a hand on over your heart, even on your abdomen, and just say that to yourself in the morning, even if it's quietly, and really feel it. Good morning, I love you. And then I like to say, you matter and what you do matters. And that brings in that why, because we get so conditioned and so involved with so many other things that happen in our lives and we forget our why. So in that acronym or mnemonic, what you were talking about is, I like to talk to myself and even talk to my physician clients and say, why did you fill out that medical school application? Remember that. Mm-hmm. Why did you do that? And how did you feel when you were accepted? And how did you feel when you first got to put that white coat on? And how did you feel when you first got to really help another person? And bringing that back, because it's still there, it's just covered up by those layers of conditioning. So I like combining what you both said into that, really using words and coming back to your why. And I think those are really powerful things. They have been for me and so many doctors that I've worked with.
And here's Rick Zollinger's thoughts on the subject.
Hey everyone, this is Dr. Z here for MyMD Coach's celebration of Valentine's Day. Well, my personal self-care and self-help revolves around my mornings where I get up and I read 2 papers. I do languages on an app called Duolingo. I exercise a very brief 10-minute stretching and exercise, have my coffee, and just feel good about the day. I look out the window, absorb the birds, and really get into the experience of what I'll do this day. I have learned in the self-help standpoint that as the day goes on, I tend to fade away, as a lot of folks as they get older do. So it takes a little bit of extra motivation to get myself going again. But for me, the early morning is the best. From 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. is when I really get my engine going and really feel excited about the day. And as you'll hear from a lot of our other coaches and doctors that are involved with MyMD Coaches, a lot of us have different experiences. We may paint, we may exercise, we may meditate, breathing, whatever it may be. But for me, it's the early morning, get your engine going kind of self-care. When times are good, of course, I get out and do outdoor activities. In the wintertime, it's a little tougher. But on this Valentine's Day, I would like to just let you know that we here at MyMD Coaches wish you the happiest and best, both for you and your partner or spouse, as it may be, to have a wonderful Valentine's Day and a great 2022. Thanks for listening. Dr. Z here for mymdcoaches.com.
Hi, I'm Rhonda Crow, founder and CEO for MD Coaches. Here on RX for Success, we interview a lot of great medical professionals on how they grew their careers, how they overcame challenges, and how they handle day-to-day work. I really hope you're getting a lot of great information. But if you're looking for an answer to a specific problem, management or administration challenge, or if you're feeling just a bit burnt out, like maybe you chose the wrong career, well, then there's a faster way to get the help you need. No, it's not counseling, it's coaching. RX for Success is produced by MD Coaches, a team of physicians who have been where you are. I know you're used to going it alone, but you don't have to. Get the support you need today. Visit us at mymdcoaches.com to schedule your complimentary consultation. Again, that's mymdcoaches.com, because you're not in this alone.
We'll get back to our interview in just a moment, but right now I want to tell you a little bit about Physician Outlook. If you haven't discovered this remarkable magazine, please do so very soon. It was created by physicians, for physicians, to showcase the intersection between clinical and non-clinical interests. Whether it's writing, painting, cooking, politics, and dozens of other topics, Physician Outlook gives a physician perspective. It's available online and in print. It's really unique among physician lifestyle magazines. And like the Prescription for Success podcast, Physician Outlook amplifies the voice of any physician who has something to say. It also engages patients who still believe in physician-led, team-based care. And Prescription for Success listeners can get 3 months free when you enter our promo code RX for Success and select the monthly option at checkout. That's a really great deal on this stunning publication. And now let's get back to today's interview.
I think we also ought to give some voice to the fact that the culture that we have all emerged from doesn't really reinforce this very much. You know, I know about the two of you, but I didn't get much in the way of messages about self-care is the road to being even more effective for your patients, and not a lot of modeling for that either. And really, mostly what was modeled was sacrifice is what's important, and people are still able to take care of, and they look like they were taking care of people in a biomedical way, maybe not in a very interpersonal, nurturing kind of a way. So I'm a late adopter of self-care. I didn't really come to this. I was critical of medical school. I don't know why I was critical of it, but I'm a late adopter to actually bringing some attention to noticing that when I do involve myself in self-care, it makes a difference. And we've all talked about this before. It's restorative, it is rejuvenating, and it allows me that energy to really put forward to the people that I work with and the patients. But I had to like kind of experience that. For many years, I did fine without it. I mean, at least neutral. I don't think it was great, but it was at least, somewhat neutral, but also got used up in the process. I think probably our listeners can identify with that.
I think that's such a great point. I think like we had a conversation about this recently, that there's kind of this double message. I think you had actually mentioned that, Dael. We get this message from our medical schools that we should take care of ourselves, but as long as you get all of this done too, and, I often hear from the medical school students, well, when is that going to happen? There's not enough hours in the day for me to accomplish all those things. And my goal is to graduate medical school. And I think that's why some of the things that we're talking about are so helpful, because some of them are very simple and don't take a lot of time. That helped me to say, like you said, Robyn, that's just such a lovely thing. Just sitting in the morning and telling yourself you love yourself. It just takes a few seconds. And yeah, how do we bring this message out more to our students and physicians in our community so that, we can all start to heal more, especially at a time like this where so many people are struggling?
We invite the experience, right? We invite the experience. We invite doctors and healthcare professionals to be curious, and we normalize how they're feeling. So it doesn't mean it's okay. It just means that they're not alone. And the good news is they can feel better, right? They can feel better. They just need to learn how. And there's this big, huge gaping hole in our education, right? With this big, huge piece that's missing. And so we as a collective are here to help fill that hole and educate so they can live their happiest lives, right? So that they can find joy in every day, independent of what's happening around them.
Love that.
So in addition to what's been said already about sort of these self messaging and some meditation, what are some other very specific, tangible ways that you involve yourself in self-caring that you're able to weave into your busy lives? Then I'll answer too, but I want to hear from both of you first.
Well, what has really helped me is being a participant and a facilitator in discussion groups. So, we have a meditation and mindfulness discussion group for physicians and their families. And we have an art of medicine discussion group for medical school students. And we used to have a rediscovering meaning in your work group for physicians. But when the pandemic hit, we renamed it Navigating a Pandemic Together. And I am more of an introvert. So for me, that's a stretch in itself, is having all these different things that I do. But what it does is it really keeps me focused on my well-being also. It addresses the fact that I'm not alone. And, we can talk about things that are really very intimate, our fears, our feelings of being an imposter, or our concerns about our families, even all of the things in our lives that are important to us. So it's a regular time where I'm meeting with colleagues, or I'm meeting with students, or I'm meeting with other families, and we're integrating some of these practices that we're talking about. But it's also the piece that I think is so nourishing to me is it's the connection. Even if we're not talking about anything in particular, there's that connection that we continue to nourish and strengthen that for me is super healing. What about you guys?
Yeah, I think lots of research is out there talking about the sense of community and the importance of the sense of community, that importance of connection and togetherness. Our own Surgeon General wrote an entire book on it. It's so important. Thank you, Dr. Murthy. This is an amazing book. And we can't say enough about it. And we're in this society where, busy, busy, busy. Busy is almost romanticized. Like, can you be even busier? Which is just really, really damaging to all of us, right? So can we take that time? And we should take that time. It doesn't have to be, it could be minutes, right? And when we think that we're so busy, one thing that I have found really, really helpful is to schedule these things in that nourish you, right? To actually schedule them in. Right? You schedule patients, you schedule your doctor's appointments, you make other things in your calendar. I actually schedule these things in. I know which friends have certain times on certain days to talk to. And I actually have it in my phone, in my calendar, my Google Calendar. It says, call so-and-so. Okay, we know that we're talking, even if it's for 5 minutes. That happened today. I talked to my very close friend today. Same thing with your partner, your partner, your spouse, your significant other, right? Your children, whatever it is. I actually put that in my schedule, because if I don't, it doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. And a whole other day goes by, and a whole other day of not being nourished. So I just want to encourage the busiest of people to even schedule the 2 minutes in anything that you can that will nourish you, that brings you that sense of community, that sense of togetherness. It works. Let's hear what Desmond Bell has to say about this subject.
I think one of the most important parts of any physician's prescription for success is caring for oneself. We often hear that cliche that before you can take care of others, you've got to take care of yourself. Well, this really holds true, especially in medicine. Our demands are never-ending, it seems. So how do we maintain a balance that prevents us from becoming so wrapped up in our careers and the problems and tasks at hand each day that we can not lose sight of who we are at the end of the day? This is certainly a challenge. Let's face it, we're all high achievers. We all work towards altruistic goals, hopefully. But in doing so, it's so easy to lose track of the things that really are most important. Trying to maintain some type of awareness or of self, or to be cognizant of the situation is easier said than done. So looking back at my career, there have been failures for sure. I'm not going to tell you that it's been an easy task to maintain sanity at all times, but I want to tell you that it is possible, and just to have some type of an outlet is really, really important. When you don't have this outlet, that may be your barometer too, that things are not going the way they should. Recently, I've been through some life stresses that have involved a move from a physical location, my home of many years, to a whole new city, community, and the stresses that went with not only trying to find a new house, selling an old house, packing, moving, all these things. It adds a lot of stress, not to mention not knowing where anything is. In doing so, I found myself losing track of some of the things that I really enjoyed, that I've done over the years to help maintain a better balance in my life. Some of this has been sort of quiet time, my little self-meditation, time where I say my prayers, but also things that I do for fun. I love to play my bass guitar. Haven't played it for months. I used to play a lot of men's softball earlier in my career, and we'll talk about that, but that's long gone. And then I recently, the past couple of years, I started playing golf pretty much once a week with a group of other physicians who were all sort of winding down their careers as well. And I found it such a great outlet, especially during COVID too. It was so important to be out and socializing and having fun, get some sunshine and fresh air. Since I moved to my new home, I've played maybe twice, and that's since September of 2021. So I found myself being kind of miserable in all this. I even said to my wife the other day, I feel like I'm turning into a grumpy old man. And it was that self-awareness, like, okay, it's time to get back to some of the things that helped along the way, that made me, a better person, and made me a better physician too. It's so easy again to get caught up in the day-to-day problem solving. Even if we're really good about setting limits or boundaries on when our day will end, our workday begins, our workday ends, and things that happen in between. A lot of times we say, okay, I'm only going to work to a certain hour. And you may be able to do that, but that doesn't mean that you don't take your work home with you. And that doesn't mean that you're able to completely shut your brain off. I've been guilty of that myself for many years. That's why I'm saying, trying to take time and looking back now over recent failures and seeing what needs to be readjusted or reset in my world, I will tell you, It may not seem like a priority, and it may not seem like it's so important because it may indicate leisure or not focusing on important tasks. But taking time out for yourself is so, so important. It makes you better at what you do, makes you more fun to be around, it makes you a better person. And really, it's also time that you're not going to get back. So if you have hobbies, by all means, don't neglect them. Don't put them to the side if you can help it at all. And if you find yourself in a situation where it's been unavoidable, by all means, look forward to getting back into your old routine. Look forward to getting back into those things that brought you some joy in your life and brought you fun. We stop playing. You know, when we're kids, we're out playing all day long. We play. That's what we do. Our playtime is social time. It's socialization. We learn so many skills in doing this under the guise of having fun. So if you forget about that and you stop having fun, you stop playing, something's going to give. Something's going to suffer. And like I mentioned earlier, you know, when we feel, you know, we're not achieving something every single minute, that's really misleading. It's just, you know, you're going to probably find yourself, if you're not taking time out for yourself, you're probably going to find yourself taking probably 3 to 4 times as long to accomplish the most basic tasks than it normally would if you were feeling good, or if you were in a good state of mind and you're well balanced, well rested, looking forward to things. These are my little tips or pearls for my prescription for success. And like I said, I'm hardly perfect. I am far from it. I have so many flaws and so many things that I'm constantly working on. But you don't give up hope, and you don't quit. You don't think that it's a worthless endeavor to try and, you know, better yourself. Part of bettering yourself is making sure, again, that you do take time out for yourself. I mentioned earlier, back in my career when I was first starting out, life was pretty good. I had started a practice, and I was working all the time. And I ended up playing men's softball. It was something that I did for many, many years prior to starting practice. And while I was, you know, starting a family and beginning my practice, I put that to the side. One day, one of my patients came in and we started talking about softball and how you had a team. And so I ended up joining, and I played with these guys, and I met so many friends, and I had so much fun in doing so. But I also hit me at one point too, no matter what went on at work that day or what I had pressing, what kind of crazy things were happening, for those 2 hours that I'd get out and play a game, maybe 2 or 3 nights a week, I got to be 12 years old again, when I didn't have a care in the world other than going to school and studying and then looking forward to playtime. So my point is that doing that type of activity at that point, when I started doing that, when I first, like I said, had begun my career, and I found myself playing in this adult men's softball league, kind of a glorified beer league, it really reinforced to me the importance of maintaining some fun in your life and having a balance. And again, balance is really, it's a tricky word. I don't know if we can ever really truly receive balance, but try and mix things up a little bit. And I'm telling you, you will not be disappointed. If you don't have time, if you don't think you have time for organized activities, get out and walk. You know, the point is, don't make excuses, make it a priority, and whatever you do, when you're taking care of yourself, make sure that you're having fun, because this is going to be passed on to your patients, and most importantly, to the people that you love in your life. So that's my prescription for success for today. I'm MD Coaches, Dr. Desmond Bell. Take care. Until next time, remember that we see you, we believe in you, and we're here for you.
Something that I'm taking away from our discussion here today is just that gentle and firm reminder to ensure that we actually are intentional about scheduling in self-care activities, even if there's only a couple of minutes to do that. And that's a way to be sure that it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, what I think I'm taking away is the value in having these kinds of conversations. that so many of us are struggling with. How do we integrate this, and what does it look like, and what does it even mean? And just to be able to have conversations with you guys and get your thoughts on this, and also recognize that we're all kind of trying to navigate this, just feels really nourishing to me in and of itself.
Yeah, this has been so insightful. I really appreciate both of your sharing in this way. And I've learned so much from both of you, and I can't wait to learn even more. Continuing our conversations and focusing compassion as a verb. That was really, I'm thinking about that one, and grace. I want to get all those points of grace, and I want to put it on a sticky note and just have it with me, maybe even type it in my phone and really start to work through that, because I really love that a lot. So thank you.
Everybody be well.
You too.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for listening with us today. We hope you've enjoyed our special Valentine's Day episode. If you think you might benefit from personal coaching, or if you're just coaching curious, please visit our website at mymdcoaches.com. Or even better, call us or email us for more information. Thanks as always to Ryan Jones, who composed and performs our theme music for us. That's all we have for now. So please be sure and fill your prescription for success with my next episode.